Every runner has a story. What about you? What's your story? Running isn't easy. We've all overcome struggles to get to where we are. Maybe you're struggling now. What is it that stands in your way of reaching your full potential as a runner? And are you willing to do what it takes to get there? If you're not sure, listen to this story about how this runner overcame an obstacle that seemed absolutely impossible. And remember, if they can do it, you can do it too. What are your running goals? Do you need help recovering from a running injury? Do you need help developing a training plan? Maybe you've never ran before and you just want to get started. Let us help you reach that big goal of yours. Here at Body Smart, we help runners maximize their performance and stay on the road. To learn more, ask questions, or to set up your first free appointment, go to bodysmartutah.com or call us at 801-479-4471. Hi, welcome to Running Unbroken. I'm Melody Bateman with Body Smart, and today we're interviewing Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett is a ultra runner, and you've been running for how many years?
Oh, let's see, about 15.
About 15, so very experienced ultra runner. So to get started, I just want to ask you, Davy, what is your story with running? What got you into it?
Well, I think what's got me, I've always done a little bit of running, but nothing serious. But as I was reaching my mid 40s, I started to feel pretty slow, out of shape, and wondered if, as far as fitness goes, it's all over. And and I decided that was not true. So I had to gain the motivation to try to get myself into shape, and I had no idea I'd be a runner, but it just worked out that way. It was kind of a long story of trying to get there.
It just kind of happened. You just kind of fell into it.
Well, what I started doing was I had been doing backpacking trips with some friends since the mid 90s probably, and every year we'd go someplace different and spend a week, and I was always the slowest, the back of the pack as far as it goes. And each year I would try to get into shape before the trip by maybe running a little bit for a couple weeks before the trip, and then after the trip I'd fall back into my normal couch potato ways.
Okay.
So then there was a particular year, I think it was in 2003 maybe, that I said, oh, let me try to get into shape. I decided to go climb a famous mountain here in Utah called Timpanogos.
Okay.
For the first time. I'd never been up to the summit before. And so one Saturday I just got up and I researched where the trailhead was, and I got up early and went out and did it. But it took me all day, and lots of college students do it. And some were making fun of me on the way. They called me the tortoise because I would move slowly but never stop, and they would go fast and take rests. And
okay, slow and steady wins, right?
That's right. So I got home from that outing, and I was just drained and felt terrible. And that convinced me. I said, I'm really not in good shape. And finally, so I went on that backpacking trip and did pretty well. I stayed up with the guys a lot better. And then the very next weekend after that trip, I went right back up that Mount Timpanogos, and I almost did it twice as fast.
Wow.
Because of all the activity that I'd been doing. And that kind of woke me up that I decided I'm gonna get myself in shape. And long story short, I've been to the top of that mountain probably 100 times now. But
Wow. So that's your mountain. You own Timpanogos.
not quite. There's a guy that's done well over, have done hundreds of them, but during a time period of a number of years, I was up there a lot and held the record of number of consecutive trips back and forth up there.
Really? That's awesome.
But yeah, so I mean, so I decided I would get into shape, but it was not easy. It was you just can't say you're going to get into shape and all of a sudden it happens. But what I loved to do was go on kind of long hikes.
Okay.
And that got my interest to be outdoors. And I started to do these very long hikes, even going and redoing some of the backpacking trips that we had done. And instead of doing it over a week to try to get them done in one day.
Wow.
And so I just loved doing that, but still I wasn't getting in super shape. And but I was doing better. And then but then as I went further and further, my wife would get worried about me being out on my own on these long trips and said, "Isn't there somebody you could go with?" And so I did a little research and tried to find out, are there any people that do these things? And one guy on the internet said, "Why don't you go try the races?" And I said, "Well, what races? I don't know what those are." I didn't know what ultra running was. I never saw trail runners back then. They just really were few and far between 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So I decided I researched a little bit that you could actually find some things on the internet back then, and I decided to sign up for a race. And
which race did you sign up for?
Well, the first one I did was one in Idaho, a 50K, which is near Preston, Idaho. It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
But it used to be on what is called the Old Bear 100 course. And so I went and did that.
So you jumped right.
I'll be really good.
You jumped right into ultra races. You didn't do, the normal progression, 5K, half, marathon. You just right into ultras. I love it.
Yeah. No, I had done a 5K when I went to Brigham Young University back in the late 70s and late 80s. And I remember I did a 5K there. I had been running quite a bit, and a serious runner in my dorm encouraged me to try a 5K. I had run a 5:30 mile. I thought, yeah, pretty fast.
Yeah, that's super fast.
And so I did this 5K, and I hated it. I mean, I did pretty good. I finished, well before the majority of it.
I bet you didn't think at that time you'd be running 100-mile races, right?
No. Well, in fact, I didn't run another race until this 50K.
Really?
So,
wow.
All those years.
I love that. Yeah. You were born to be an ultra runner. You just jumped right in. I love it.
I would start running now and then to try to lose some weight or get into shape, but I never really liked it all that much. I do remember once in I was living in upstate New York, late 80s, and I ran with this guy in his 40s. I thought he was really old. But he was amazing. He could run and run and run and never get tired. And I tried to run with him in a group one time after work, a 4-mile run, and they just ran like anything. It's so easy for them, and it just killed me.
Wow.
And so over those years, I really didn't like running.
Isn't that funny? The thing with ultra running, though, so like a 5K versus a 50K, it's like the difference between baseball and football. They're different sports.
Oh, very different.
Yeah. They're very different.
Yeah. So 5Ks are just way fast. And you press your heart rate as hard as it goes.
You suffer the entire time.
Yep.
And some people like that. I'm like you. I definitely, I did a lot of running growing up, started with 5Ks and such, and I liked it, but I was like, I don't know if I love it. It wasn't until I started ultra running and I was like, oh, I can walk half of the race. I like this better.
So I did this 50K. I thought, well, maybe I'm really good. Maybe I'll place pretty high.
Uh-huh.
I've been doing all these hikes and putting on a lot of miles on trails. Well, I didn't quite come into last place, but I was towards the end, and I would see. I remember I saw this lady just be able to run down the hill with great speed on these trails. I go, my goodness, how was that possible? And so I learned a lot on that first race, and a couple of weeks later, I signed up for a 50 miler. And
oh my goodness,
up in Washington, and well, I finished it, but I finished in dead last.
Wow.
In fact, 2 seconds over the time limit. And so I always like to go back and look at those results to see myself in last place.
Wow.
And that just, I still had a lot to learn because I was still pretty overweight. I remember I went to that race and I saw all these skinny, lean, fast, fit people. And I looked at myself and I said, hold it, there's something wrong with this picture. I'm a little bit different. And well, I'd already signed up for my first 100 miler, which was a month later. And which was the Bear 100, and it was held in Idaho at the time.
Wow, you just jumped right in.
Went ahead. I did. I was stupid. But very enthusiastic, very, I just loved it. And so I did, and I didn't finish. I got to mile 85, 87, and I just had no more strength. I experienced what's called a bonk, a low carbohydrate reaction or electrolyte imbalance. And I didn't know what it was. It felt like I was dying. And but I had a pacer with me who helped me.
That's good.
And he flagged down some motorcycle guys, and they gave us rides on the back of their motorcycles back to the next aid station. And
wow.
I remember when I did get to the finish, and I watched people finishing, and I said, this sport is not for me. I will never finish a 100 miler. I don't have the genes. I just don't have it. This is not right for me.
And then you ate those words, huh?
Yeah, about 3 days later. But what I decided, I came out with a lot of overuse and injuries. So I had these soft tissue problems in my legs and knees, and I went to the doctor and tried to figure these things out, and it finally dawned on me, I've got to do this right. I've got to overcome this challenge. As you say, it's a challenge. And what I decided is, 1, I needed to lose a lot more weight. 2, I needed to learn how to run, because I was mostly just doing pretty fast hiking. And so over the next winter, after I recovered from those injuries, I very carefully started my own program to get into shape. I used swimming to lose my weight. I would swim miles and miles that were able to take the pounds off. And when I started all this, I was probably about 230 pounds.
Wow.
And at least at that time, I probably got under 190.
Wow, way to go.
Yeah.
And so you did that with swimming, and did you do anything with your diet, or was it just you were swimming and running a lot? And
yeah, I probably improved my diet a bit, took vitamins and supplements and things, but
okay.
It was mostly exercise. Yeah.
And I'm
I,
also
I
curious, what injuries did you have after that run? What did you have to recover from?
oh, the typical ones. For example, ITB problems,
Okay.
commonly called runner's knee. That was an issue that you can't run through. Just
Yeah.
various other knee situations that I just the big problem I made is, and this runners typically do this, you increase your mileage base too quickly.
Yeah.
So I went from hiking 20 miles or so to running 100 miles in just a couple months.
Yeah.
And
Definitely not enough time for your body to adapt. Your body
no,
or
that's
your
not
mind.
it wasn't adapted to it. So I think about 6 months after that 100 miler, I ran my next 100 miler, and this was an
Okay.
easier 100 miler. It's still all trail, but it's held in Texas,
Okay.
and I finished it in 26 and something hours,
Oh my
and
goodness. Was it a pretty flat one?
a kind of a rolling, yeah. I mean, it's not flat, it's not dirt
Wow.
road. It's called Rocky Raccoon. It's held in a state park,
Okay.
uh, on very rooty trails. So it's fairly technical here and there, but it doesn't have huge mountains or anything. It's just kind of rolling
Okay.
trails.
That's an impressive
And
time for your first 100. How did you feel
yeah,
after finishing
oh,
that?
I was elated.
I
it was just,
bet.
I was just, I said, this is amazing, but still I had to go. I still was injured. I mean,
Oh,
I went to work in sandals. My feet were just,
wrecked.
it was just, you know, so it took me a while to learn that. And so then that
Yeah.
first year I ran some other 100 milers and didn't finish some. And, but then the next that fall, I did finish my first Bear 100, which was
Awesome.
the one I didn't finish. But I came
Awesome.
out of it very discouraged because, my crew had busted the oil pan on my car, and I'd
Oh
spent a lot of
no.
money on it, and it felt like I wasted a ton of money just to finish this 100 miler. And so I came home and
Oh.
I packed up all my running gear and said, I'm done. And said, nah, no more for me. This sport's not for
It
me.
can be expensive. It can be an
Yeah.
expensive sport. The races, and you need to have the gear and the nutrition, and for a race that big, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. So, and I paid for a motel for my crew, my pacers and
Wow.
crew, and which is most of my hundreds. I know I don't do crews or paces anymore.
Yeah.
But back then I thought you had to do them. To
Mm.
be successful, you had to have all this support.
Mhm.
And I learned after that one, they actually didn't give me all that great support. They distracted me and actually slowed me down.
I can see
So
that. And that's just one more thing for you to worry about too, right?
yeah, it was too stressful, way too stressful.
For sure.
But I did finish. And a good friend knew I was totally discouraged. He actually came to my work and presented me my belt buckle in
Oh,
front of all my coworkers and
that's
made a
so
big deal
nice.
about it. And
Oh.
yeah, so after a week or so, I decided, okay, I'll keep doing this.
Isn't that funny? I feel like every ultra runner has had multiple times where they're like, "Nope, I'm never doing this again. I'm done with this."
Yeah,
But you always come back.
that was. I think that was my second. Yeah, that was only my second finish. Again,
Wow.
I quit.
So at this point in your life, how many 100-mile races have you done?
Right now,
Yeah.
I have finished 105,
Wow.
and I have probably started. I probably DNF'd, didn't finish probably another 15 or so
You know,
for various reasons.
that is really comforting to me to hear, because I'm sure when you DNF, that's really hard. It's hard you get discouraged. And when you put all that time and money and effort into training for a race and you don't finish, that's hard. But I feel like in order to become successful, you have to fail, right? And so it's awesome that, even though you've had like 15 DNFs, you've had 105 finishes. So that's awesome. And I'm sure you learned great things when you didn't finish those races that helped you with future races.
Yeah, when I don't finish those races, when I quit, I feel good. But within hours, it's like, why did I did that? Because I would say about at least 2/3 of those were just mental weakness. Most of them are DNFs at about mile 80 or further. There was one I quit at mile 90, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Because of a snowstorm.
Oh my goodness.
And all my clothes were drenched, and I was just having, I had some spare clothes, but the aid station had thrown my bag in a puddle of water. And so everything there was just drenched. And so I get to this, I only had 10 miles left. It's snowing. I said, nah, this is not safe. I thought I rationalized. Although it was. I mean, this was in Page, Arizona. I mean, this is not high up in the mountains. And,
man, but so it's hard to think straight.
Home. Yeah, and so that one I'm probably most mad about, because that was clearly a weakness. So what I've done with everyone, for most of my races, I would write a long race report, and I have them on. I have a blog that has them all. And so I would use these DNFs to really teach me things. Because there was something I did wrong, and it'd always be a different reason. That one in particular was, I should have put my clothes in a plastic bag so they wouldn't get wet. Just various things that I should do, and I wasn't fueling quite right. There's various reasons for each of the race. So you learn from each. There's some people that think they should never have a DNF, and I pity them because you're not pushing yourself enough, and you're not learning. I put on my own 100 mile race out in the West Desert of Utah.
Oh, you do the Pony Express, right? Is that okay?
And
yeah, I've seen that.
And so I remember one year there was this runner who signed up for the 100, and he DNF'd at 50.
Okay.
And he, after the race, he would send me emails demanding that I give him credit for the 50 miler, even though he didn't sign up for the 50 miler. He signed up for the 100. And I had a rule. I don't do that, because I don't like people taking the easy way out, getting to 50 miles and saying, we'll get credit for this race. And so, but I remember he was so angry at me, because he said he didn't want to stain his record with any DNFs. And I was staining his record by giving him his first DNF.
Oh my goodness.
But like you say, you've got to learn from each one. Push yourself. So I don't feel too bad about those 15 or so. There's a few that really bug me, though. There are some that really bug me. That's good. I did have a stretch of like 38 without a DNF, and I was pretty proud of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. I feel, what would that be? Would that be an average of, because you said you've been doing this, 15, 16 years, an average of like 600 or 700 mile races a year? Does that sound about right?
Wow. I haven't, my last one, I haven't done any during the pandemic. Okay. yeah, about 7 or 8. And but my last
Wow.
several years when I was hitting 100, I was doing I averaged one a month. So
Wow.
12 a year, and with a couple DNFs thrown in there too. So
Okay.
maybe 14 a year for several years.
Wow.
I was able to get my body in shape where it could handle doing those 100 milers that frequently.
So that's what I was going to ask. How do you feel after finishing a 100-mile race now? Do you feel broken like you said you did on your first couple, or do you feel just fine after
Well,
100
now
now?
I'm almost 63. So I'm going to try a 50 miler this weekend. It'll be my first ultra in a year and a half. So I'm
Oh,
getting
great.
older. I'm getting older, and it's a lot harder. But when I was in my late 50s and
Mhm.
doing a 100 miler every month, it got to the point where it was getting pretty easy, I
Oh,
guess.
wow. How
Um,
cool.
I would they'd be less painful, and I would recover within about 3 days
Wow.
from these. But the way I did it is my training, and I did this for 3 or 4 years. I would try to every week do a training run or a race of at least 50K.
Okay.
Every Saturday, go out for a very long run.
Wow.
And so I trained my body to do these very long runs. It was expecting it every week, and then it would recover. And then midweek, I'd probably only run a couple more times. I would only
Really?
average running 2.5 to 3 days a week. Yeah,
Wow,
but
you are giving me so much hope. I love this.
but because I was doing those very long runs, my mileage base was still being maintained. I would still run about 70 to 80 miles a week or more.
Wow.
And but as I was doing that, yeah, that all worked out. But got to be careful because injuries do happen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Honestly, I feel like if you're a runner, injuries are inevitable. They will happen.
They are.
You want to do everything you can to prevent them, but they just will
Absolutely.
happen. So, what did you do on your off days when you weren't running? I'm curious about your training. Did you do any weightlifting? Did you do any yoga, cross training? Do you have an active job or do you have a desk job?
Desk job. I'm retired now. I retired last month, but
Okay,
um,
congratulations.
yeah, I had a desk job, and no, sometimes I did a little weight training, not much, mostly just for my upper body, because as a runner,
Don't
you
do a
get
lot of
pretty,
upper.
yeah, you get pretty weak. But my thought is, if I had time,
Uh-huh.
I'd run. I like to
Okay.
run. I don't like to sit there and do weights. And
Yeah,
after a while, I hated swimming. Swimming
really.
was so boring. I would only swim. I would only swim or bike when I got injured,
Okay.
as a way to recover. So yeah, I stuck to swimming. So on those off days, I rested. I recovered,
Okay.
and did other things, balanced my life.
Mm,
Have six children,
wow.
and now 11 grandchildren, and so
Oh,
and a busy job. So we have to balance everything.
yeah. How would you say you were able to balance everything?
One thing that helped is I love running in the dark. I love running at
Okay.
night.
There you
I love
go.
running very early mornings. And so people thought I was nuts, but yeah, I would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go
Wow.
run and finish my run before the family was awake.
Wow.
And so I did many. I don't know how many thousands of miles I've run in the dark. Probably at least 20,000,
Oh my
probably.
goodness.
And I love the peace and quiet, the cool temperatures, and and the challenge of running at night. And so
Wow.
by doing that, it really helped balance my life. So yeah, I'd get home and maybe be a little sleepy at work or on a Saturday.
But it was
Wouldn't get
worth it.
anything done around the house. Yeah, but it was worth it. Yeah.
That's very cool. I feel like that would also be really beneficial to you as an ultra runner to learn how to run in the dark and to learn how to run without a lot of sleep. That probably helped with your
That's
training
right.
a lot too.
Yeah, for 100 milers. So somehow I fell in love with 100 milers after several years. I mean, did a lot of 50 milers in the beginning, but if you look at my results now, you'll see the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years are just 100 milers. So yes, I concentrated on those because I loved the experience of running both day and night. And
that's awesome.
And yes, getting over sleep deprivation, that's all part of the game. It really is. And you got to use all sorts of tricks and things to do.
Oh, yeah.
To help your body wake up and keep running.
So did you ever experience hallucinations on your runs?
I did, yeah.
What are some of the craziest? This is a question I love to ask ultra runners because it's just so funny. What are some of the craziest hallucinations that you've had on your runs?
I've seen toys on the trail. I've seen park benches in mountains where you can't have park benches. I run a lot in the Grand Canyon, and I would see buildings and people down in the Grand Canyon that would just
oh my goodness.
I said, no, there is the building there. And so a lot of times, and they would always pop up, a lot of times during 100 milers, when they would happen is I would just have to keep my eyes down to the trail. I'd have to force myself not to look around because it would bother me so much. Because I would see all these crazy things, and I'd recognize that, oh no, I'm having these crazy hallucinations. And
so just keep your head down.
That's right.
Oh, that's so funny. I do have a couple questions about your nutrition too. What would your advice be for someone looking to dial in their nutrition as an ultra runner, and how have you done it?
I'm a bad example for nutrition. That's I love candy. I love sweets, and I don't know, when I stopped running, I guess I stopped doing red meat, and I did cut out a lot of meat, but no. I figure if I'm running enough, I'm staying in pretty good shape. And so for nutrition for me is during a race, am I fueling myself properly? Or for a long training run, am I bringing the right things to keep my carbohydrates flowing and keep my electrolytes being replaced? And keep my I'm not going in dehydration. So you get all those balanced right, you can keep running and running and running for a long time. But if one of those things get out of balance, then all starts falling apart.
For sure. So is that something you've just, over the years, you've learned how to listen to your body, and you just know when it's time to replace electrolytes, or when it's time to get sugar and carbs? You just have kind of learned to listen to your body that way?
Yeah, I learned, of course, read what other people do.
Okay.
But most of it is I did learn from trial and error. I would get into a particular point of a race and all of a sudden feel terrible, and I'd have to try to figure out what is it? Am I low in salts, or have I not been eating enough, or am I dehydrated? What's the situation?
What's happening?
Sometimes it took me years to try to do it right. But I don't know. Every race is different, and temperatures are different. I generally don't like hot races anymore.
Okay.
I like the cool ones. I have a little problem getting overheated, but yeah, and you got to learn what your body likes to eat,
Right.
and what it can digest. You need to keep, at least 300 calories an hour coming into your body as you're going along, and at times your stomach's going to reject it, and to me there is no shame in throwing up.
Nope.
That happens, and then you start over again, and then you ease your stomach back into it and find out what it can tolerate.
For sure.
So I've learned, especially the first 50 miles of my races, I usually can do mostly fluids.
Okay.
But then after about 50 miles, my stomach says, I've had enough of what you're putting into me, and I have to change things up. So those are just things I've learned along the way.
Okay. So you do fluids the first 50, and then you start eating solid foods the last 50.
Or solid foods, especially as night starts coming in, and it gets a little bit cooler. I still have to intake the salts. Still have to be very careful about the amount of fluids. I tend at night to retain fluid for some reason. My body starts doing that.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
So I have to be a little careful with that.
Okay.
And then in the morning for some time, then it starts dumping fluids. So it's
no.
So things I've learned. I've learned I would have problems with congestion that I couldn't understand for quite a while, based on my hay fever allergies, and I'd have to try to figure out, because once it starts filling up my lungs with stuff, then my performance goes down. And so I had to figure out things, how to solve those kind of problems and get around them.
And again, just trial and error, just trying different foods and drinks until you just kind of figured out your body. That makes sense.
And a few medications here and there. Yeah.
Okay. I like to hear what people do because everybody's so different. I've heard some people will just do liquids the whole race. Some people will just do liquids and gels. Some people are, love the candy and the sugar and the donuts and the cupcakes, and they just eat the entire run. And some people can't handle that. So it's just fun to listen to how other people do it. It does just come down to trial and error. Figuring out what works for your body.
There's some 100-milers where I can do fluids almost the whole time, and that's great.
Okay.
Usually those are some of my best races, but other times, no, you can't. Just can't. After a while, the gels just won't tolerate it at all. Or whatever drink I'm using, I have to totally switch it to something different, and then kind of start all over and keep things going. So it's just a constant. People ask, well, don't you get bored while you're running? But no, you're always thinking and always trying to figure out, what do I need now? What do I need at the next aid station? What am I doing right? What's working? What's not? What do I need to fix? How fast is my pace? Am I going to catch the person in front of me? Your mind is just always working.
Oh, it's constantly going. There's no such thing as being bored on an ultra. So this is my last nutrition question. What are your go-tos? Is there a certain brand or a certain kind of food that you always have on every run?
What I like to do when my stomach is doing well is I fuel on diluted Ensure.
Okay.
So I take
that's a new one. I haven't heard that.
I take a bottle of Ensure, put it in a water bottle, and fill the rest with water. So it's not quite as strong, and that's 250 calories.
Uh-huh.
And so if I drink that between aid stations, that's wonderful.
Awesome.
I mean, shot blocks and gels definitely work. But there's some points in the race where bacon has been my go-to.
Awesome.
And it's usually in races where electrolytes get low, where your body craves for salt and grease, and
Oh yeah.
so I've been saved numerous times by getting to a place and just devouring bacon.
Bacon literally saved your life.
That's right.
I love it.
But all sorts
So,
of things. I mean,
oh yeah.
sandwiches, burritos,
Mm.
just all sorts of things that can bring the calories in.
Oh, now I'm feeling hungry. Now I need some bacon and burritos.
Yeah,
So,
usually, so I go on these. I do these 50 miles solo. Instead of signing up for 50-mile races, I just go do it on my
just
own.
go do them.
I'll go to the last summer. Almost every weekend I would go to the Uintas and do at least about a 40-mile adventure.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I've just learned how to put some food in a little backpack, and I get fluids along the way from streams, and just kind of learned. And usually it's a couple burritos and some candy, and
there you go.
And I'm able to do it.
Best kind of food. Let's be honest. One of the best parts about running, particularly ultra running, is all the food you get to eat.
That's right.
That's part of the reason I do it.
Well, and then what's really fun is when you pace somebody, when you're not the runner, when you're helping somebody.
Oh, and then you get to eat all the food. And
you get to eat all the food, and you're not pushing yourself as hard as you usually do, and it's just a wonderful experience.
It's like all the fun of the race minus the pain.
That's right.
Oh, that's awesome. So I just have a couple more questions for you. What would you say is the number one obstacle that you've had to overcome to get to where you are? What is the hardest thing that you've had to do with your ultra running to get to this point in your life? I know it's kind of a hefty question.
Well, along the way, it's the injuries.
Okay.
And
yeah.
overcoming the injuries. So, I mean, even before I started ultra running, when I was still doing those long hikes, I had gone skiing and tore my meniscus. And so I had the surgery. And when I came out of the anesthesia, the doctor was there and he said, "Don't run anymore." I go, "Oh." What? And he said, "Well, if you do, stick on trails." And so that was 40,000 miles ago. And I went back to that doctor years later for my other knee, and I told he was just excited to hear what I'd done. He took me around his office bragging to the nurses.
Oh.
He said, "Tell them how many 100-milers you've run." I go,
That's awesome.
So I recovered from that. But that, for my first couple years of ultra running, that knee was really the inhibitor. It took quite a while for that. I mean, it still bothers me now. But then in 2012, I think I'd almost done about 50 100-milers. I had a serious injury. I didn't know what it was. And so I went back to that Texas race to get my fifth finish. You get a 500-mile jacket. And so
awesome.
I really wanted to finish that, but I didn't know that I ran that entire race with a serious stress fracture in my tibia.
Oh my goodness.
It kept breaking and getting worse and worse. But I got the jacket.
At least you got the jacket.
But I had to returning home, I had to use a wheelchair in the airport just to
Oh my
get,
goodness.
yeah. And so that was probably my most serious. And the doctors couldn't figure out what it was for a while. Took a
Wow.
month or two. But I tried to even just walk and run. It just won't work. Finally, they did a bone scan and it just lit up. And it's here's what it is. Yeah, this is
Oh,
the crack went almost all through the whole bone.
wow.
And so
Ugh.
I was out for 6 months.
Oh no.
But right after that 6 months, I finished another 100-miler. So
I love it. That is inspirational.
It was a tough mountain one.
Wow.
It's just I didn't do it terribly fast. I used poles, but I finished, and
Wow.
I did recover from. Although that injury still, that once you get one of those terrible stress fractures, it still bothers you for years.
Yeah.
So, what I've tried to do over the years is figure out how to avoid injuries. Now, the reason that injury happened, it didn't happen in that one race. It happened in the race before that, and the cause was I ran in some old, worn out shoes that were slanting my foot, pronating wrong, and putting pressure on one side of my bone. And so I learned a lot about pronation and feet and shoes and learning how to recover and to be very careful.
So how many pairs of shoes?
I've had other injuries.
Do you go through?
My shoes, lots and lots. Usually it depends on the brands, but I can usually get about 400 to 500 miles on them.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But that's like, during that time I was averaging, 80, 90 miles a week. So that means. So
like every month a new pair of shoes?
About, yeah.
Wow.
A month and a half. Yeah.
Wow. Another reason ultra running is awesome is you get to buy lots of shoes all the time.
Yeah, and you're always, and they're always coming out with new models, and you're always trying different things.
Oh yeah.
They unfortunately they discontinue your favorite shoe. That's what I hate.
Isn't that the worst?
You try to buy like about 10 pairs before they go.
Honestly, though, yeah.
But yeah, so over the years, I've had to switch shoes, and that's been a bother at times, finding the right shoes that work. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've overcome quite a bit to get to where you are. Sounds like you've pushed through a lot of injuries, and you've pushed through lots of shoes and to get here. And I think that's really inspirational. It goes to show that nothing can really stand in your way of doing what you love and reaching your goals. There's always a way around the obstacles when they
there almost
arise.
Always is a way. So the final challenge that I'm faced is age. So
that is another challenge. Yeah.
I'm now 63. And I discovered when I was running very well up into my late 50s.
That's awesome.
Back when I was 58 and a half, I still did a 100-miler in about 20 hours, which was one of the fastest in the world for my age.
Wow.
But I hit 59 and things just happened. And so I'd learned to be patient. You have to work a lot harder. Since I've retired, I now have more time to train. And this week, I feel I went on a difficult run this weekend, 20-miler, and climbed 7,000 feet. And came home feeling wonderful. And
that's great.
I'm looking forward to, maybe doing a 100-miler again this year. I'm signed up for Wasatch.
Awesome.
100, and I hope to finish that.
Well, my husband and I will be there volunteering this year, so we'll cheer you on.
Well, that's great. It's a fun race.
We're excited to be there. what piece of advice would you give uh, an ultra runner with an injury, or maybe someone who wants to get into ultra running? What would you tell them?
It's all about listening to your body. So for new ultra runners, it's funny, you see them on social media a lot. They say, please give me a training plan to be able to run a 50K or 100 mile or something like that. And then people will suggest these very rigid marathon-like training plans where you have to run 5 miles on this day, and then the next day you have to do this or that. I have never, ever, ever done anything like that.
Really?
It's all, to me, it's all about listening to your body. So
I love it.
what I do is instead I set a goal for the week on how many miles I want to run. And then I'm flexible. I work to reach that goal, but if my body says I need to rest a certain day, I rest. If I go out for a run and it just doesn't feel like I have it, well, I adapt and I do it. Because if you keep pushing through those things, you'll get into shape, but there's a high likelihood that you'll end up with an injury before your race, and that race won't happen. So I guess my advice for both a new ultra runner and existing is listen to your body, be patient, recover from your injuries, and don't burn yourself out. Enjoy it. Make training be the funnest thing that you can do. To me, it is. It's not the races, it's the training. I just love the training. So.
Oh, I love it. I can just feel your passion and love for it. And it makes me, I'm like, oh man, I need to go train right now. I'm so pumped. And I love that advice because by listening to your body and not burning yourself out, it also allows you to run as you get older. And I was going to say, you still have plenty of time left. I've been to these ultra races where there's 70-year-olds out on the course, and we have people here at Body Smart in their 70s and 80s, and they're still running, and you seem to be in great shape. So you got plenty of time.
You learn your body. So I do have a bone condition, but I understand what it is. And it's just a matter of sometimes the pain makes the training not fun anymore. So it's trying to figure out, do I use some different shoes or do different things, different surface, or what can I do to still enjoy it? I'm figuring some things out. So I might have to resort to biking more.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. You could get a mountain bike and still enjoy the trails, right?
Somewhat. Kind of dangerous and scares me, but
mountain biking can be a little scary. Well, this has been completely inspirational and very educational. And again, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to share your story and share your tips and tricks. They're really beneficial to me and will be beneficial to lots of other people too, I think. I'll make sure to share in the show notes. I'll put your podcast and I'll put your blog up on there. If people do want to follow you, where can they go to follow you?
Well, my blog, the easiest way to find it is just Googling Davy Crockett running.
Okay.
I think you'll find it. And I haven't been updating that an awful lot, but on there you will find like 15 years of just lots of things. And I've compiled them in kind of a running memoir book that's on the front page of that blog that you can download, and thousands have downloaded that thing.
Awesome.
But I'm concentrating mostly on ultra running history. So I put out a podcast every other week on an episode of ultra running history. And I've been researching that for the past 3 years or more, and have a pretty big following on that. And so that's at ultrarunningshistory.com is the website. And that's also the name of the podcast. And I'm also now the director for the American Ultra Running Hall of Fame. So the Hall of Fame is also hosted on ultrarunningshistory.com. So go visit, see what the Hall of Fame is, and the wonderful runners that are in that hall. We induct somebody every year.
Wow, that's awesome. Everyone be sure to check that out. I'm going to go check it all out too. Thank you for listening today. Don't forget to follow to get more inspirational stories and more tips and tricks on running. Share this with a friend who you feel like needs it, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to Running Unbroken. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and reach out if you or someone you know has a story to share.